Get your gear ready. This is a Sherpa's Guide to Innovation.
Welcome to part 2 of our episode featuring two very special guests. It's my pleasure to introduce Andre Blackman, CEO and co-founder of Onboard Health, and Toure McCluskey, Chief Operating Officer of Onboard Health. Andre and Toure, welcome to a Sherpa's Guide to Innovation podcast.
Thank you so much for having us, Ben.
Thanks for having us, Ben. Looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. I am too, very much. Well, Andre, what's the story behind the founding of Onboard Health, and what's the problem that you're trying to solve?
Absolutely, Ben. Thank you so much for asking. I mean, my entire career, literally from start to where we are right now, has been around public health and healthcare innovation. So basically what I'm really focused on is how do we build a more powerful, more inclusive future of health. And so, throughout my career, I've been able to meet and experience some amazing people and ventures and companies and events. And it's been an absolute fantastic ride just to see where health has come so far. And so for me, kind of getting started, in the early days, I guess you could say the golden age of social media. So we're talking about 2007, 2008, I started writing a blog looking at the intersection of digital health, innovation, public health, and healthcare. And that was called Pulse and Signal. And that's what really kind of got me involved in this entire world around using digital and tech or social media. And so I feel like a dinosaur oftentimes when, I got started, when blogging was kind of the be all and end all of social media. It was really hot, like if you had a blog at all. And so that's what really got me started kind of sharing my ideas and also sharing other people's ideas. And so, really got started, interviewing amazing people like Susanna Fox and things and folks from that kind of landscape who are also building the future of health. And so over the past several years, I've been able to, build and work alongside of some incredible people. And so fast forward to 2016, I get the call from my alma mater, the University of Maryland School of Public Health. So go Terps. And so I got the call to become the commencement address speaker for the School of Public Health. And so I'm completely floored, right? Because wait, are you sure you want me to be the commencement address speaker when, just the year before the Surgeon General was the commencement speaker. And so they reassured me that my specific kind of skill sets and my experiences were exactly where they wanted their students to be involved in for the commencement. And so it was that kind of experience for me standing on stage, right? I'm literally standing with the same professors that taught me years ago around public health and the social determinants and things of that nature. And I'm looking out into this crowd of, 2,500, 3,000 individuals going out into the quote unquote real world. And basically, imparting to them the importance of learning how people live, learning how people work and play, and really being focused on sustainable solutions for this new world that we're living in, right? And so that's one of the kind of key aspects about how I started with Onboard Health, because, at that point, I thought about how I wanted to show up in the world, right? I was super passionate about people and connecting people to amazing, opportunities, whether that was for careers or for speaking, essentially making sure that fresh ideas got built into our society as it relates to health. And so that is kind of how Onboard Health started for me. My daughter was born that December and I was already not getting sleep. So why not start a new company? And so that's when Onboard Health got started. And the problem that we're really trying to solve is all about representing a new workforce that will be powering the kind of startups, the ventures, the companies that are now building the future of health, right? Especially as we saw this intersection, right, around traditional healthcare systems and hospitals and how they were innovating using technology and digital, but also seeing this convergence around the social determinants, right? The upstream opportunities, things that I was classically trained for in school, where we're looking at, now we're able to look at mental health in new ways, or chronic disease, the built environment, right? Like affordable housing, walkable cities, and food sustainability, right? So things of that nature. So with that in mind, we really want to build a more representative, more inclusive workforce to be able to bring lived experiences, their whole selves to these issues. And it only makes sense, right? Oftentimes when we're looking at diabetes or mental health, there are specific communities that oftentimes have deep disparities, right? And so it only makes sense to have a more inclusive workforce to be able to tackle those issues. So from a representative piece, like what does a data scientist look like, building the future of health, right? And also just kind of really ports into the sustainability of the services and the products that a lot of these companies are trying to build right now, right? So if we want these services and products to last, we absolutely need to have a more diverse and inclusive workforce.
I love that. What an inspiring and expansive perspective. That's terrific. So Toure, you've done quite a few things in your career as a serial entrepreneur. What was it about Onboard Health's mission that resonated with you? Because you recently joined, correct?
Yes, I started about 2 months ago, and when I look at new ventures, it's all about PMI, Ben, and not really too much information, but it's more about team, mission, and impact. And when I look at the opportunity of Onboard, it was just an amazing opportunity because, for one, Andre is an outstanding entrepreneur. We talk about someone who's tenacious and all in, and just really knows his stuff. I mean, Andre is the epitome of that. And, if you're going on a startup journey, you better do it with someone that you respect and enjoy working with and enjoy spending time with. And, Andre fit that to a T. But also the mission is something that I've, lived and experienced as well. So it really resonated with me. And I've seen firsthand with companies who are looking to innovate, but it doesn't show up in their products. And we've all read studies about how diverse teams lead to better products. So for me, this mission is really about getting access to talent and making sure teams that are in charge of innovation have diverse mindsets. Now that can be ethnic diversity, but we're very comfortable talking about diversity in terms of adding in designers and adding in data scientists to adding them to on the seat, having them have a seat at the table. That's kind of been a revolution in the last 10 years, is the importance of design thinking on innovation teams and having someone who's really comfortable with data on the innovation team. Well, we think it's also fundamental to have diverse mindsets as well from an ethnic standpoint and from a geographic standpoint as well. So a lot of other things that make up a good team and empower these teams to have better products, better adoption through a stronger workforce. And that's what we're kind of bringing to the table. And then impact, this is something that, as Andre said, is really empowering the future of health. And, as a health consumer and someone who's steeped in, where healthcare meets technology, I have a vested interest in that we're building better products for the future, not only for myself, but also for my kids. I do want to live longer. I do want to enjoy life, and health is part of that. And better products is needed to sustain our health collectively. So TMI is really the reason why I'm on this journey with Andre.
I love that acronym, TMI, team, mission, and impact. That's great. And thanks for that kind of definition of diversity and inclusion and how you approach it at Onboard. So Toure, I'll pose this next question to you. Why is a diverse workforce so critical for innovation in healthcare? And what can organizations do to develop a more diverse workforce?
Yeah, so it's really around building better products. And we've seen, hundreds, if not thousands of, especially digital health products come online in the last, call it 5 years, but very few have gained traction. And, there's also been a revolution on, it's partly because of design thinking and really applying that. That's been a huge push over the last 5 years, is around design thinking applied to healthcare products. But I also believe that, when you're driving adoption, you have to have a deep understanding of the problem, and you have kind of diverse perspectives to really understand and drive adoption and better products. and diverse teams go hand in hand with that. So to me, it's just really about if you want mass adoption. So for instance, if you're developing a product that, let's say you're developing a diabetes product. Well, diabetes products are general population, but there's also over-index in, call it, African-American and Latino communities, right? There's a higher incidence of diabetes. So if you're developing a product with, that target audience, you really better understand exactly what the barriers are to using that product, daily barriers to just life in general, transportation issues, financial issues. All that is wrapped up in having a 360 perspective on what you're building and who it's for. And diversity really drives, that concept of truly understanding whether this product you're building is working for all and has the ability to be widely adopted when you really get into the weeds. So to me, it's just really around access to talent and building better products through diversity.
I like that. I like that distinction that it's not just being inclusive in the design, but also in the adoption. And that's really the measure of success. Andre, anything to add to that?
Yeah, Ben. I mean, and I love Torre because he got right to business, right? It was just this is why this is going to drive results at your companies, right? Why else are you creating a company unless you actually want to build impact and be successful, right? And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Because oftentimes, let's be honest, right? I mean, the narrative around diversity and inclusion oftentimes, and unfortunately, has been this kind of veneer around philanthropy or, the pat on the back or, oh, isn't that cute, right? And so what we're trying to bring to the table is look, we're not 3D printing business cards here, right? Or lamps. These are actual people. These are your son-in-laws, your daughter-in-laws, your partners, right? The world of healthcare and, improving what we're doing now literally impacts the person next to you, right? And so when it comes to that, we really need to be focused on how up to speed we are with, cultural competency and the representation piece that I talked about before, right? If you want your services and products to be used, right, which is, once again, that's what you want at your company, and this is how you get it done, right? You have people on your team that reflect the communities that you want to impact. So once again, this is not a nice to have, right? This is a need to have if you want to win. So there's that competitive advantage there from having diversity on your teams, but also if we're looking at the long game for healthcare, right? We want to impact, and this is why I was going back to where we're at now around value-based care, right? Or looking at, surrounding communities where we're creating impact. This is absolutely essential to take a look at. And so our focus is to make sure that we're able to power your success with dynamic individuals that can really kind of move the needle forward across the board for, diseases and conditions, but also for companies.
That's a great mission statement right there. That's terrific. I'll pose this to the both of you. What are some promising examples of organizations or communities where you're seeing true diversity and inclusion going into effect the way that you've defined it?
Yeah, I'll jump on in here. One of the people that comes to mind for me is Sarah Holybeck from Luminary Labs. She runs this dynamic company that healthcare is a big part of the work that they do. And Sarah has, a really genuine focus on building human companies. They actually kind of came out with a human company manifesto, right? The new world of work right now is changing, whether, you like it or not. And so being able to become a more human company, looking at the policies that you have, looking at what your job descriptions look like all those kind of different things pour into this kind of new world of work right now. And Sarah and the team at Luminary Labs really embody that from, maternity leave and kind of building out more equity across the board from who their team looks like. So definitely Sarah Holybeck at Luminary Labs. Health Sherpa, so the company that has really been focused on enrolling more people into healthcare, right? And so the ACA, they were this kind of amazing company that drove results around that and just kind of literacy, especially across communities that traditionally are a little bit, more leery of these kinds of pushes or campaigns. And so, Kat Perez, is one of the co-founders at Health Sherpa, has done just an incredible job across the board, just with their mission, as well as their brand. So those are kind of two examples that really kind of pop out for me as far as like really moving the needle. And then you have like larger organizations like Merck that has, built out some really kind of deep set programs across the board from their leadership and executive team as well. So those are some of the companies that we've kind of seen like really kind of making some strides.
Outstanding. Well, what have you seen, Toure?
Yeah, along the same lines of larger companies doing well, I think within pharma, seeing Glaxo and Merck and Lilly really champion it more from a strategic angle of, they deal with disease sets that over-index into that minority community. So they really dug deep in the recent years and getting diverse teams to really understand the marketplace, the barriers, and again how to drive adoption. It's actually shown up in their stock prices and also in their sales as well. So they understand it and they've kind of really bought in as a group, as an industry. I think where it's a little bit tougher is on the startup side, right? So usually when you're starting up a company, things are flying around, you're moving as quickly as possible, or you're trying to scale up as quickly as possible. And when you're trying to get people in the door, usually what happens is reach out to folks within your own network who probably are going to be just like you. And you're doing it for kind of expedience sake because you're going so quickly. Usually the culture is actually set within your first, 30 to 50 employees, is not even sooner. So those who kind of wait and say, well, we'll solve the diversity issue, as, when things are more stable, it kind of sets you down kind of a different path as opposed to, trying to address it earlier on. So that's why Andre and I are looking at, companies who are, Series A, about to scale, and saying, hey, if you really think about adoption and product strategy, now's the time to take a hard look around diversity. So I think once you get a little bit too big, it's tougher to change course. So we've been going a little more upstream and finding those companies that are about to scale or in the scaling process and saying, hey, this is something that can help your business. We'll take a hard look at it right now.
So I understand that a major focus of Onboard Health and really the purpose is to build this diverse community of innovators and professionals all working on the transformation of healthcare and innovation. And I also know that you recently participated in the Aspen Ideas Festival in their health program. So tell us about your experience and how the community that you've built has been involved.
Absolutely, Ben. So thank you for asking. This is probably my favorite part, to kind of brag on the community that we've been building. I'm a huge people person, and I absolutely love hearing stories, hearing what motivates people, hearing what directions people are going, because like my brain just kind of turns into this giant Rolodex, right? I start thinking about the people, the places, the tools, the opportunities. And so that has been like one of the very core aspects of what we're building here, right? And this is why we call it a workforce ecosystem, right? Because, the people that we're bringing together have backgrounds in engineering and data science and UX design thinking, communications, as well as, more traditional roles like doctors and nurses, all who want to port their skill sets into building the future of health. And so this is kind of how we got started, really just growing this community. And it's been so incredible just to hear the stories and connect with as many of them as possible. And so that's definitely one of the things that, we're doing with Onboard, is growing this community that we're able to kind of, some of the three main pillars of Onboard Health and what we try to do with the community is connect, equip, and launch, right? So connecting people with like-minded individuals. Oftentimes we hear back from people like, I had no idea that there were people in UX or design that had backgrounds in public health, right? And so for Toure and I, we've been living this for years. And so it's always refreshing to kind of hear the stories about wow, I had no idea this company existed, or I had no idea that, there was a company tackling mental health specifically for African American men, right? So once again, like Kevin Dedner, who started Henry Health in DC, and maybe being able to connect the mental health innovation landscape to what they're building. That's definitely one of the energizing pieces for me are the people and the professionals that we're able to build up. And then the equip part has to do with resources and articles and insights on trends that are moving forward, and do that with our weekly newsletter. And then finally, the launch piece, which is why, the rocket is our symbol. We love just kind of launching people into new roles or opportunities to speak or fellowships or events. And so that second part to your question about the Aspen Ideas Festival, one of my absolutely favorite events. So in 2016, I was selected as a Spotlight Health Scholar back when they called it Spotlight Health. The first 3 or 4 days of the Aspen Ideas Festival is literally dedicated to the future of health and bringing together a global community of people who are tackling some of our biggest problems, right? And so for me, like that experience literally blew my mind. I'm here like rubbing shoulders with people from Venezuela and, all around the world. I actually got to see, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the movie Concussion that Will Smith portrayed the doctor on, concussion. And so literally the doctor that he portrayed came out to the Aspen Ideas Festival. They screened the film, got to meet him. It was fantastic. And so I literally came out from that event knowing that that's the kind of experiences overall that we want to bring to the table for the community. And so this year we had about 5 amazing people get tapped from the Onboard Health community that were able to come out as scholars, right? So Dr. Esther Chu, who's been this incredible voice around gender equality in healthcare, right? So she's actually one of the co-founders and spearheading individuals of the Time's Up healthcare movement. And that organization is absolutely amazing and needed right now, made up from dynamic women from all across healthcare, right? And so Dr. Chu is a fantastic part of our community. And so she was one of the speakers at the event, and we had amazing scholars come out from the event as well. So Mai Hong from Livongo, Tiffany Netters, who is the executive director of 504 HealthNet in New Orleans, Selena Davis, who is the new CEO of the Louisiana Public Health Institute, also in New Orleans, and Carlos Rodarte, who's been a long-time digital health advisor and innovator in the space. And so, once again, representing diversity and bringing that to the table to the Aspen Ideas Festival was truly like a manifestation of the vision that we had, right? And just as a funny story, I mean, Carlos actually made a joke for us to do a sunrise mountain hike in Colorado, so like in the Aspen area. And so it all started as a joke, like, one night at dinner. And then next thing you know, like we're all getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to hike into this like mountain area in Colorado. And, some of us, have not a great experience around like hiking in the woods, let alone in pitch darkness, along with the warning that, there may be bears, there may be mountain, but if you make enough noise as a group, you should be fine. So, that turned into this adventure, literally, where I'm just in awe of like all of us coming together. Literally, we all, all the different kind of members from the Onboard Health community. We got together 4 o'clock in the morning and we did it. Like we went to the top, and it was such a lesson to me in resilience and community for us to do that. And we got it done, and I'm getting ready to do like a write-up on the whole experience. But that really taught me about the reach for what we're building here, right? Like this was an event where, oftentimes like, the access to these kind of events are pretty low, particularly from a lot of people from underrepresented communities. And this is the kind of stuff that we're opening up access and acceleration to.
Outstanding. And how validating as an experience at the Aspen Ideas Festival to have so many people from your community be participating, and that's outstanding.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how can our listeners learn more about Onboard Health? Where should they go? Yeah,
so onboardhealth.co is our website. members or individuals who are interested in building the future of health. This is an inclusive community, so it's for everyone. Obviously, like we're focusing on, women and people of color, people from the LGBTQ community who are building the future of health. We would love for you to join the community. And we're also very active on social media. And so Onboard Health across Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, feel free to join us there, where we're sharing amazing resources and insights and just really highlighting the companies and individuals that are in our community that are also building the future of health. And so that's what we're doing from a community building standpoint. And if you're a startup or company that wants to work alongside of us to build your team and to help with sourcing amazing dynamic talent, we would love to work with you around that aspect, but also kind of building more brand awareness and thought leadership, as well as internal capacity building. Those are things that we're really passionate about to build that kind of internal capacity and understanding as companies with that lens around sustainable health innovation.
Terrific. And I'd recommend all listeners as well to sign up for the newsletter. It's great. I did just a couple weeks ago, and it's been fun to read. So we'll provide all the links to all these resources and how to get in touch with Andre and Touré at Onboard Health in the show notes. So they'll be available. Well, Andre, Touré, thank you both so much for your exceptional work advancing diversity and inclusion in our industry, and particularly in the areas of healthcare innovation and transformation. I wish Onboard Health every success, and thanks for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you, Ben. A lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, this is Ben Tingey from A Sherpa's Guide to Innovation podcast, a proud member of the Health Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.
The Twitter profile picture. Is that the Falcon Heavy?
I think it is. So you're referring to like the Mind of Andre one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a huge aerospace nerd. Side note, I interned at NASA in high school. I was headed toward aerospace engineering at Maryland. So space, all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, and obviously it lends itself to our icon around the rocket with Onboard Health, and just kind of launching our community into amazing opportunities. So, but I appreciate that, Jay.
Cool. I'm a big Tesla and Elon Musk fan, so it caught my eye.
Nice.